Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This episode we have Netflix 335th film from 2021. It's the Indian trilingual family drama called Tribhanga, Tedhi Medhi Crazy. It's directed by Renuka Shahane and stars Kajol, Tanvi, Azmi, and Mithila, Palkar. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thanks for joining me today for this episode. Another international film on the books, which is good to see. So if you want to check this film out, haven't heard of it, are intrigued by seeing what this is, give us a pause and come back later on, because we will spoil this as we go, because we do start the show with the fast flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this is the story of three different women from three different generations and their dysfunctional relationships, almost like the generational change between grandmother, mother, and daughter. So that's where we're at for this one. How did this end up on Netflix? What can we find out about this film? So obviously it's always difficult with international films to find out too much. This one had quite a lot of information in regards to reception and how critics and audiences had seen the film. So I'm trying to keep away from that. I just want to talk about sort of the production side of things. So this one, the idea came to the director Shahane, and she wrote the story for this film way back in 2014. And it was inspired by her own relationship with her mother. So this film, Tribhanga, was originally supposed to be a small Marathi film, but was later turned into a Hindi Netflix original as the stars Kajol and Siddharth P. Malhotra got on board. The film was confirmed by the director in late 2018, and on October the 10th, 2019, the cast, the crew, and the basic plot were announced. So the title, Tribhanga, it's a dance pose in the dance of Odissi, and its nature is meant to represent that of the three leading women in this film, and that's discussed through various stages in this film too. Principal photography for the film commenced on the 14th of October 2019 and ended on the 8th of December 2019. The film was shot entirely in Mumbai, and it was one of the most awaited release films in India in 2021. The first look of the film, they sort of did a trailer or a teaser trailer on the 16th of July 2020, and then the full trailer was released on the 1st of January 2021 before being released 2 weeks later. This does feature three languages, as I mentioned at the start too, so it's got English, Hindi, and Marathi in its languages. The translations for this one around the world. So in English, the actual title Tribhani, so that doesn't change because that's the dance, but the subtext of Tedhi Medhi Crazy, it actually means crooked crazy. So that's what the direct translation is in Spanish. So all of these titles have that Tribhanga at the start, but they've got all different subtext. So in Spanish, it's beautiful imperfection. In Portuguese, it's one dance. In German, it's wonderfully imperfect. In Greek, it's imperfection and madness. In Hungarian, it's the Tribhanga dances. In Japanese, it's dance gracefully. In Russian, it's imperfect and beautiful. Swedish, it's crooked crazy, so the same as English. And in Turkish, it's twisted and crazy. So a bit of a range of different titles there, all to do with obviously that dance and how that dance works in relation to these three different women in this film. Apologies, I haven't had much sleep the last few days, some sick children at home, so that's why I may be struggling with some words at times. This was released on Netflix on the 15th of January 2021. As I said before, it was filmed in Mumbai. This was nominated for 9 awards. It did win one award. This was across the Filmfare OTT Awards in India, as well as the Indian Tele Streaming Awards, the Bollywood Film Journalist Awards, and the Indian Film and Television Awards too. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? So Rotten Tomatoes actually sits at 86%. That's on 7 reviews, so that is definitely fresh. The audience, fair bit lower on the Rotten scale for the audience, or the popcorn meter, I think is what they call it now, sits at 55%. That's on less than 50 ratings. IMDb, it's only got 3,200 ratings. It sits at a 6.2 out of 10, so that's fairly solid. And Letterboxd sits at a 3 out of 5, but that's only on just under 1,300 ratings, and it's been logged by 2,000 people. So overall, I would say the Western world, I guess, haven't really got onto this film. What are my early thoughts for this one? I think this is a 90-minute Indian film, which I think was refreshing, because a lot of the time, the Indian films that Netflix have done and we've covered, they've all been 2 hours plus. So the 90-minute runtime I really enjoyed. And I think, in that 90 minutes, it doesn't overstay its welcome with like drawn out scenes or long songs, which often at times that cultural difference in film can sort of take away from the experience for me. So I think the emotional core in this I connected with. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think this is a good film. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the characters. The three women. We've got to start with the first one, I guess, which is Anu. So she's a successful dancer. She's sort of our most of the film is told through her eyes, through the relationship she has with her daughter, and then the relationship she has with her own mother as well. So when we talk about, her dancing, that's her world, that's her life, and I guess her daughter as well. But she has very little else in her life that she has time for. She despises her mother, and she's happy that her mother in this film is in a coma pretty much the whole film. But the film is about learning more about her own mother and discovering more about why things have been how they are, and not necessarily holding on to that hatred, I guess, towards her mother. She does swear a lot in this film too, so that's an interesting thing too. And then also that relationship with her daughter sort of comes to full fruition too, about what she actually knows about her own daughter as well. So Anu's mother is Nayan. So her kids are Anu, and her son and Anu's brother is called Rabindra. And she was seen as a successful writer. And she's now at an age in life, I guess, that she can't write anymore because of arthritis, because of aging. And as I've said, she's got this fractured relationship with her children pretty much their whole lives, because she had almost this addiction to her writing and neglected them through a variety of other things, including men as well. She's, I guess, in the process of having her life documented through video, because she can't write it herself. And she's picked this guy called Milan, who we'll talk about in a minute, and he's going to write the biography for her. She doesn't conform throughout her life to society and, I guess, the way that society expects her to live. So she lives her life in her own way, and she's happy to leave marriages when divorce is frowned upon in society. And this does impact her children as well. And she knows that that she's close to the end. She knows that death is upon her. She knows she's frail. She knows she's aging. And she sort of questions if there's anything to live for without the love of her children. And I guess that's a part of this process for Anu as well throughout this film. Masha is the third female, I guess, which is Nayan's granddaughter and Anu's daughter. And she's found her own life. She's found a man to marry. She's got her own new family, but she struggles around the way that she was brought up by her own mother and the differing values that society has as well. And then the other people I mentioned before, Milan is the guy that's been selected by Nayan to write her biography. He was like a fanboy. He worships and idolizes her. He feels lost without her while she's in a coma. He's got a PhD in like feminist literature and things like that. So he's sort of this side character that sort of, without him, the connection towards the end of recognition and understanding what's gone on in their lives previously probably wouldn't occur. And the other one, Rob Hindro, which is Anu's brother I mentioned before, he's a religious man. He's almost like this guru, doesn't care about money. They refer to him as like a saint. He follows and sort of believes whatever his sister says, including blocking the mother out. So that's where that fractured relationship sort of exists as well. All right, the director, Renuka Shahane, 43 acting credits, so well known for acting. This is only the second directing credit after another film from 2019 called Rita. So obviously sort of making ways to make more films rather than just being in front of the camera as well, which is an interesting thing to see. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What didn't I like in this one? Start off with the good scenes. I think Anu is arguing with Milan in this day. This is early in the film when the mum's in a coma and they're in the hospital. And, we know that Anu doesn't like Milan because she thinks he's just after money. He doesn't like that he's got a relationship with her mother because she doesn't like her mother. And the nurse is like, stop arguing, shh. And Anu's response is, she can't hear us, she's in a coma. I thought that was quite funny. I thought that was good too. And then there's a moment where Anu talks to her brother about their mother as well. And he's like, how is she traveling? And she's like, she's in a coma and silent. It's great. That was also another funny moment from Anu. There's a moment after some flashbacks and reflection where Anu holds her mother's hand in the hospital bed. That was sweet, just after how we'd seen how much pain she'd caused her throughout her life, that she was starting to realize, you are my mother, you have done things for me. That was good too. There's a reflection of how Anu's mother's boyfriend, Raina, who's one of the positive men in this film, I guess, and how he introduced her to dance. So without him, in connection to her mother's relationship with him, she wouldn't have had her passion, love, or career of dance. I thought that was well done. And finally, there's an argument that Anu has with her daughter towards the end in the hospital with the grandmother in the coma in the bed, and it's about the restrictions that her husband's and his family have put on her, and the father figures that she's been missing, and the hard time she had growing up, and they have this big argument. They make up. That was really sweet. That was really well done. And it's finished off with a humorous moment too, to add some light to it, because this is a heavy film. And that Milan, the guy who's writing the book, is just standing there saying, I don't know, awkward. I don't know if I should have stayed or should have gone. I thought that was funny too. The only thing I didn't really like in this film, there's this whole idea that Anu just swears all the time, uses poor language. And it's meant to be humorous, I guess, the way that she sort of talks to Milan about it and teaches him how to swear. I don't know, I just didn't like that. I thought that was a bit ordinary. The themes, the ideas. So, parenting, obviously sacrifices of parenting too, but that idea of feminism with this as well, being a strong mother, and those mother and daughter relationships are so important, especially when you're struggling against the patriarchy. That's very clear. Obviously victims of society too, and that idea that you need to be able to forgive, you need to right the wrongs and say sorry before it gets too late as well. And obviously, you know, it's easy to say when you actually face that idea that you may never be able to speak to someone again, and that too is reflecting on memories and using memories, because you can't go back in time and change your life. So let's reflect on the positive things too, and through the brother Rabrindo, you've got to talk a little bit about faith and religion, and making choices and not being forced into things as well. What did I take away from this one? This is a very heavy film. Like, there is self-harm, there is suicide attempts, there's sexual abuse, there's mention of abortions that are forced almost, there's domestic violence. This film isn't going to be for everyone, and I think that's a really important thing to know almost before going into this film, that there are a lot of touchy things in this film. Questions, ponderings, ideas. I guess this goes into when we were talking before about the reception of the film. Why haven't more people in Western society seen this film? I'm not sure. I think there are so many, there are some really good, decent Indian films on Netflix that feel like they don't ever get promoted to Western culture. So this is one that I'll try and get out there and say, hey, give it a watch. It's worth it, because I'm ready to wrap it up. We give the film a rating out of 5. So for me, as I said, it's not going to be for everyone because of some of these heavy themes, but I thought this was really well done. It doesn't have a conclusion that an audience is probably going to expect. I think it's nicely put together, some good reflective moments in it too. I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. That's a solid score for me. We're on socials. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, and we have X, which is formerly known as Twitter. The question I wanted to put out with this episode is that idea: can you dance? Like, obviously this film is about a love for dance. The dance and that idea is in the title as well. I'm a horrible dancer. I'm like a dad dancer. So, but I think dancing's a really fun thing to do too. It's like you can let loose and relax a little bit. So I do like a little bit of a dance anyway. All right, we're back next week. We do have another Indian film next week from 2021. It's a drama called The White Tiger. This one's directed by Raman Bharani and stars Adarsh Gurav, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and Rajkumar Rao. That's what we've got next week. So The White Tiger, interesting. Let's give it a crack. As always, thanks for listening today, and I'll see you next week.